My sister's parting gift to me was the video that killed her. If she'd known that, she wouldn't have let me watch it. She certainly wouldn't have watched it herself. Amelia and I were close. There are only 2 years between us. My little sister was close to turning 20 when it happened. I sometimes forget that it only happened 5 weeks ago. I don't know how long I have until it happens to me. Now, Amelia and I were like this. Just picture my index and middle finger coiling around one another. I know siblings are supposed to fight at some point, even close ones who claim to be best friends. But we never did, and it had nothing to do with us being special in some way. We didn't fight because we needed each other. We were always that way. It didn't come down to any one thing. Our deadbeat dad definitely drew us closer together, but our codependency continued after we moved out of his house 2 years ago. And our mother died during childbirth, so we were always blamed by our family members for her passing. I'm skirting around the truth, in all honesty. The key reason for our tight bond was more wretched and disturbing than all of those terrible factors combined. For that matter, I don't know whether those factors had anything to do with our condition. Essentially, starting in our childhood, Amelia and I had issues with food. Whether driven by genetics or environment, I don't know. The cause is blurry, but the result is all that matters in the end, isn't it? We were never formally diagnosed with anything. Dad didn't believe in head doctors. But I blame myself. Always have. Being the older sister, I must have influenced Amelia, and I'll never forgive myself for that. I did try to stop her from copying me, but I suppose she wouldn't have been able to understand why I told her to keep eating, only to do exactly the opposite myself. With adulthood came independence. Too much independence, perhaps. Amelia joined the same university as me, and we start living together. We had 2 flatmates, lovely girls who were vaguely aware of our eating issues. And last February, I came home from a lecture to find my younger sister giddily bounding around her room. Amelia said that she'd finally found a way to kill that craving. I remember only fragments of what she said. I was too focused on her alarmingly bloodshot eyes, though I told myself that the daylight must have been playing tricks on me. Over the years, in my battle against inner demons, I've learned not to trust my eyes. And that would be, throughout the unholy circumstances to follow, my undoing. After all of this time, the only thing that really persists is a memory of her face. It wasn't just the eyes, but the mouth. Her laughter was so slight, verging on silence, and her lips trembled, suggesting that, behind her breathy giggles, she might be teetering on the precipice of tears. I do, however, remember Amelia telling me about the TikTok video responsible for her newfound glow. A video posted by some new age influencer, one whose account I didn't find when I searched for it. And I, ever a touchy elder in a young woman's body, nagged my sister for using that harmful app, lectured her about how it was worsening our shared mental health problem. After all, for months, we'd promised each other that we were going to get better. Countless times, of course, as it's never that easy. You don't understand, Flora, said Amelia. I haven't used TikTok since this morning, and I won't use it ever again. I snorted. Well done. Still, as much as I admire your 5-hour break, let's not brand you an off-grid girly just yet. Listen, I haven't been on my phone since this morning, Amelia continued in a whisper. This piqued my interest. Well, that's slightly more impressive. I've forgotten the last time you took a break that long. I reckon you still use it during your sleep. Exactly, and I'm telling you that it all comes down to this video. I feel different, Flora, my sister insisted, nodding at her computer's monitor. She told us all to put down our phones and follow a website link. So, I visited the address, and that's how I found this downloadable file. Amelia sighed contentedly. It could help you too, Flora. I only watch this video whenever I feel a craving for food, and that urge just goes away. Then finally came my frown. Goes away. My sister's hand hovered over her mouse, and she said, "Let me show you." But my own hand shot outwards, and I seized Amelia's wrist, stopping her from opening the video. I wasn't even sure why I had such a dramatic reaction. I was basing my worry on only her odd demeanor and what I assumed to be a Trojan-laden video file. Still, something felt off, so I told my sister I didn't want to watch the video. And I don't want you to watch it again either, I said. In fact, I want you to delete it. I should have made sure that she did so. I might have been able to end all of it before the obsession grew. That evening during dinner, I managed to eat half of my soup. Not bad for me. Amelia didn't even attempt her plate, on the other hand. Yet, my stomach was the only one growling. Amelia, are you okay? I asked. As she had been for hours, my sister was still releasing a series of breathy chuckles through her marginally ajar lips. Tears, somewhere between joyous and tortured, stained her cheeks. And then, without responding to me or even looking in my direction, Amelia took her plate of untouched food to the kitchen. Then she went up to her room. She didn't emerge all night. Strangely, however, when I went to the toilet around 3 a.m., I noticed a blue glow slipping underneath Amelia's door. Something I found a little concerning, given that Amelia, in spite of her mental struggles, has always been one for early nights and early starts. Over the following weeks, Amelia took steps backwards, not forwards. Before that wretched video entered her life, I'd managed to get the two of us to, at the very least, eat a little something at breakfast and dinner time. But that had gone out of the window. My sister became noticeably frail. Meanwhile, I was eating more. I forced myself to, at the very least, eat a full bowl of cereal each morning, as I felt that we couldn't both spiral at the same time. In addition, I hoped to be a role model for Amelia, hoped she would copy me again. But her daily ritual of watching that video continued, and she was watching it more than once a day. She was barely leaving her room, and the girl who entered wasn't the same one who left. There was always less of her afterwards. In September, after I'd finished my course, Amelia moved into a new house. I returned home, hoping our father might be able to help me knock some sense into her. That was a tall order from him. Let's just leave it at that. Anyway, I eventually decided to pay my sister an impromptu visit. She really had, as promised, stopped using social media, choosing to communicate with me via text messages, but those had become too sporadic by December. After a week without hearing from my sister, I decided that turning up at her house unannounced was the only thing left to do. Amelia's housemates wore strangely pale faces, which only exacerbated my anxiety, whilst I asked questions about my sister's welfare. One girl said she didn't know much, as she spent most nights at her boyfriend's place. The other said that she hadn't seen Amelia since the Tuesday before, *9 days earlier star. The only indication of Amelia's presence was that blue, ever-persistent light below her door. I ran up the stairs, despite protests from the gaggle of housemates huddling in the lobby. They didn't follow me, however, didn't try to stop me. And now, looking back, I think they were scared to do so. There's a lot that comes to mind in retrospect. Their shuddering faces, their stammering answers. Surely, something as banal as an unsociable housemate wouldn't have been enough to fill their eyes with such fear. One girl's eyes were pooling with tears. I think there were things they didn't tell me. Stumbling across the unlit landing, a blue glow guided me towards Amelia's room. It spilled through the crack below the entrance. But I didn't shout for my sister. Didn't knock. I rammed the handle downwards and shoulder-rammed the door, but it was unlocked, and I tripped through to the other side. I found myself in a room with drawn drapes. A dark room, darkness somehow barely scratched by the blinding blue light of Amelia's lit monitor. The only thing the screen illuminated, save for the carpet leading towards the door, was Amelia's chair. My sister sat in it, head resting on her desk. My withered sister. My unmoving sister. My ears were ringing, but I must have screamed. Mustn't I? Must have screamed at the body, no more than threadbare flesh clinging to a frail skeleton. And, worst of all, this wasn't the thing which terrified me. No. What terrified me was that my sister's lower face, the top had decomposed to reveal her skull's eye sockets, remained mostly intact. It revealed her lips. She died with a smile on her face. Perhaps I would have been haunted by that sight for longer, had it not been for a weightier terror drawing my eyes, the terror that prompted me to write this post in the first place. A video was looping on Amelia's screen. I know you want to know what I saw. I'd like to tell you, but it wouldn't mean a thing to you. It has to be seen to be understood. It's more than a video. More than a tapestry of black and blue pixels, arranged in just the right way to put a wide smile on my face, to take the weight from my body. I don't know who or what made it, but the video is not natural. Not of this world. I tried to look away, but I found that I couldn't or wouldn't. I became detached from the world. Detached from my senses. Detached from the screams of Amelia's housemates. Detached from the conversations with paramedics who tore me away from my sister's body. Not detached from fear. I felt plenty of that. I still feel plenty of that, no matter how widely I smile at my wasting body in the mirror. Much like my late sister, I wear that awful smile on my face, still release that breathy laugh. That's why I'm so afraid. I don't know what's inside me. I'm detached, above all else, from hunger.
The other night, my wife asked me if I had recently put my hands on the bathroom mirror. At first, I thought she was crazy, but then I saw them. Fingerprints. Large. Smudged. Wrong. I told her it was possible I had leaned against the mirror while brushing my teeth in the early morning haze. You know how it is, half asleep, stumbling through your routine, but something about them fell off. The angle. The spread of the fingers. When we tried to recreate it, it was awkward, unnatural. It lingered in my mind, but I pushed it away. Then things started disappearing. Small things at first. A comb. My razor. A towel we swore we had just folded. The bathroom always looked spotless, like someone had been meticulously cleaning it. I assumed my wife was just on a cleaning spree. Maybe she was playing a prank. It was the kind of relationship we had, always teasing, picking at each other, keeping things light. But she never mentioned it. And when I started paying attention, I realized other things were happening too. One morning, I woke up to my wife glaring at me. "You're an asshole," she muttered. "What?" "You breathed your hot-ass air on me all night. No wonder you brush your teeth first thing in the morning. Your breath is awful." She laughed, rolling over. I laughed too. Then I remembered. I sleep facing away from her. That night, I came home from work, and while I was playing with our daughter in the living room, my wife screamed. I ran to the bathroom. She was standing there, towel wrapped around her, shaking. The fingerprints were back, but this time they were near the top of the mirror. There was no way either of us could have done that without standing on something. My stomach twisted. "Stop with the pranks," I said. "I'm not sure what pranks you're talking about," she said, voice trembling, "but I've had enough. We're going to my mom's house." That's when it hit me. None of this was her. Someone or something had been in our house, watching, moving things, standing over us while we slept, breathing on her at night. I told her to pack a bag and take the baby to her mom's. My brother and I stayed behind, guns in hand, sitting in the dark for hours listening. Then we heard it, a thump, from the bathroom. We crept down the hallway, moving slow, ears straining. The house felt thick like the walls were pressing in. Then, the door creaked open. Before I could react, my brother shoved his hand through the crack, grabbing whoever was behind it and ripping them into the hallway. It was a man, wearing my wife's clothes. He was filthy, his skin slick with sweat. His eyes, wide, hungry, unblinking, darted between us as he gasped like a wild animal caught in a trap. My brother pinned him down while I called the cops, but something still wasn't right. How the fuck did he get in the bathroom? Then I saw it. Above the mirror, a hole, about 2 feet by 2 feet, sealed so perfectly into the ceiling that I had never noticed it before. I climbed up. I wish I hadn't. The crawl space was tight, the air thick with the stench of sweat, and something rotting. My flashlight flickered against walls covered in filth. Old, greasy handprints, deep scratches, and smears of something dark. Then I saw it, a doll, dressed in my daughter's old onesie. Its plastic face was smeared with something wet, its tiny hands wrapped in strands of my wife's hair. I swallowed bile and turned the light. A shrine, torn photos of my wife, her underwear pinned to the walls, strands of her hair braided together in little knots. A pile of baby clothes, my daughter's old pacifier, and things I knew we had thrown away. Then I saw the tunnels, tiny passages worming through the walls, barely big enough for a person to squeeze through. I shined my light into one, and my stomach turned. The walls were covered in scratches, like someone had been clawing their way through them for years.
I caught something on my trail cam. It's trying to pretend it's a cat. I set up the trail cams after something got into my chicken coop. It wasn't a fox or a coyote. They leave messes. Bloody ones. Let me tell you, I've cleaned up more than a few of those over the years. This one, it was precise. The wire was clipped, the latch was open, and 4 of my best layers were gone without a trace. I live out here alone, so I had no one to back me up when I told the story, but I know what I saw. Or rather, what I didn't see. And I didn't see no damn coyote. You sure about that? Hayes asked down at the general store. I know what a mess they make. Someone stole them. Who's out here stealing your hens, Carrie? I don't know. I slapped my money down on the counter. That's the point of the cameras. I'm going to see who took them. Hayes looked amused. You think that chicken thieves are going to come back around a second time? Yes. And if they don't, just give me the damn cameras. And up they went. The first few nights, I caught the usual critters. Raccoons scuttling through the underbrush, a few deer passing through, even a bobcat slinking along the tree line. But they didn't clip the wire and cleanly steal my hens, so I left them be. It was 5 nights before something else came onto the screen. At first, I thought it was a mountain lion. Big, sleek, moving low to the ground with purpose. It padded right through the frame of my western-facing cam at 2:47 a.m. But something about it was off. The legs were too long. The way the skin bunched around the joints looked unnatural, like it had extra folds it didn't know what to do with. And when it turned its head slightly, the eye was all wrong. Too round, too bright, like a human eye catching the light. I convinced myself I was seeing things. Low resolution, bad angle, maybe even a trick of the light. But I kept the cameras up. The next night, it came back. This time, I got a full body shot. The skin around its shoulders was peeling, like an old leather jacket stretched over something too big for it. I could see the wet sinew beneath, the way it glistened under the moon. The face was the worst part. It had the shape of a mountain lion, but the edges didn't sit right, as if it had been pulled too tight, and the mouth. The mouth turned to the camera, and it smiled. Then it was gone, vanished into the darkness. I had no proof for it, but I knew in my heart whatever I just caught on film was the culprit. That creature, it was the one that took my hens. Just my luck that it wasn't the local kids bored and looking for something to do. Just my luck it had to be whatever that was. I didn't sleep that night. I kept the shotgun by my bed, every light in the house on. My closest neighbor is 6 miles out, and I wasn't about to call the sheriff over a mountain lion with a weird face. But I didn't shut my eyes once. It was just wrong feeling to do that. You're letting it get to you, Carrie, I exhaled. Acting just as bad as when you were drinking. Got yourself jumping at shadows. Nope. There was no chance I was tricking myself into relaxing. My eyes were still open when the dawn came. The night after that, the camera by my coop caught it standing on 2 legs. It was blurry, sure, but the shape was unmistakable. It had the hind legs of a big cat, but its torso was wrong. Too long, too thin. The skin had sloughed off in places, leaving exposed ribs and raw muscle. The face, it wasn't a cat's anymore. Does that make sense? It still had the skull of a cat. The ears, the fur. But the fur was sort of slipping back like a hood, and the muzzle had been twisted up somehow, or bent down, or just car hit broken in a way that let the smile get wider, the mouth gaping open in a way no animal should. And the eyes. No doubt about it. Human. It looked at the camera again, and then I watched as it took its hands and snapped the chicken wire with its bare hands. I ran out at dawn, yanked down every camera, and dumped them in the shed. I figured if I ignored it, it would go away. Childish? Sure. But what else could I do? Go out there and face it. Just the thought had me shaking in my boots, so I told myself I was seeing things. That I had been awake too long, looking for something that wasn't there. This morning, I found the last remaining trail cam sitting on my front porch. I know I didn't put it there. I hadn't even looked at the footage yet. My hands shook as I clicked through the files. The final image was taken at 3:12 a.m. The creature was no longer walking through the woods. It was standing right in front of the camera, too close, its torn skin hanging in strips. Its mouth was open wide, its lips peeled back, revealing rows of jagged, uneven teeth. And its eyes, they were staring right into the lens. Into me. Then, in the last frame, it screamed. I don't remember throwing the camera. I don't remember running back inside. But I remember the sound. It wasn't caught on video, but I heard it. A high, keening wail, like metal tearing, like something forcing its way through flesh that was never meant to hold it. I haven't left the house since. I don't know what it wants. But I know one thing. It's watching me now, and hands that can snap wire can easily figure out how to open a flimsy wooden door.